The first time the billionaire lost his smile that morning, it wasn't because of the numbers flashing red on his phone or the impatient messages from his lawyers. It was because a young waitress, with tired eyes and a calm but steady voice, dared to interrupt him while he signed a contract worth more than most people's lifetimes. Ethan Cross had always believed life was simple: effort equals reward. He rose from poverty, built an empire, and learned that the world respected power, not kindness. That belief had carried him from a damp, one-room apartment in Ohio to the top floor of a Manhattan skyscraper. Now, at 47, he sat in a quiet corner of a downtown café, reviewing acquisition papers that would fold a small, struggling family-run restaurant chain into his vast hospitality corporation. The café was modest. No flashy decor, no pretentious menu, just chipped mugs, the smell of fresh coffee, and the faint hum of an old radio playing something nostalgic. Ethan rarely visited places like this anymore. But today, he wanted anonymity. He wanted to think without being recognized, without people expecting him to be generous, powerful, or cruel, depending on what they'd read about him last. The waitress noticed him the moment he walked in. Her name was Lily Martinez. She had learned to read people the way sailors read storms. Years of working double shifts to support her younger brother and her ailing mother had sharpened her instincts. When Ethan entered, tailored coat, posture stiff, eyes trained on his phone, she knew he carried more weight than money alone. He carried something heavier. She just didn't know yet that it was a decision that could erase her livelihood. She poured his coffee without asking, sensed he was the kind of man who drank it black, and placed it gently on his table. "Take your time," she said softly, as if she understood he wasn't really there. Ethan nodded without looking up. He scanned the pages, eyes moving fast, lips pressed into a familiar confident line. Clause after clause, profits, restructuring, severance packages that looked fair on paper and devastating in real life. He'd signed 100 deals like this before. This one would close a chapter for a dozen independent cafe owners, including this very place. Soon, everything would be standardized. Efficient. Profitable. Soulless, if anyone dared say it. Lily returned to wipe the neighboring table, glancing at the papers despite herself. She hadn't meant to look. But a logo caught her eye: Cross Holdings. Her stomach dropped. Her mother had worked for one of their subsidiaries years ago, laid off after a strategic restructuring. No warning. No safety net. The word, efficient, still made her chest tighten. Lily took a breath and tried to focus on her job. This wasn't her business. She needed the paycheck. Speaking up never ended well for people like her. But then she saw something. One line. Clause 17b. She'd seen it before, not in contracts but in consequences. It was the clause that allowed closures within 90 days, contingent upon market optimization. It meant the cafe's elderly owner, Mr. Jenkins, who still worked the register every morning at 5, could be out with nothing but a polite letter and a handshake. Her hands trembled slightly as she picked up a napkin. She told herself to walk away. But something inside her, something stubborn, inherited from a mother who worked until her hands cracked, refused. She approached the table again. "Excuse me," she said quietly. Ethan didn't look up. "One moment," she swallowed. "Sir, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. But that clause, it's a trap." That got his attention. He looked up slowly, eyes sharp, surprised, then faintly irritated. "What did you say?" Lily's heart pounded. She could still walk away. Apologize. Pretend it never happened. But she didn't. Clause 17b, she repeated, pointing carefully, respectfully, as if the paper might bite her. "It gives you the right to shut this place down in under 3 months. No appeal. No real severance. It looks generous, but it isn't. I've seen what it does to people." For a moment, the cafe seemed to freeze. Ethan stared at her, then down at the page. That was when he lost his smile. Not out of anger, at least not fully, but out of recognition. "You read contracts?" he asked. "No," Lily said honestly. "I read outcomes." Silence stretched between them. Ethan folded the papers slowly. "You have no idea what you're talking about." Lily nodded. "You're probably right. I'm just a waitress." Then, softer, "But this place raised me. It paid for my brother's school books. It kept my mom alive when we couldn't afford insurance. If you close it, you won't just shut a business. You'll shut down people. She expected security to appear. Or at least a sharp dismissal. Instead, Ethan said nothing. For the first time in years, someone had spoken to him without fear or desire. No flattery. No hatred. Just truth. Sit down, he said finally. I can't, Lily replied. I'm working. Then stand, he said, almost gently. She did. Ethan tapped the paper again. Tell me what you think happens after the 90 days. Lily hesitated, then spoke, words spilling from months of buried worry. She talked about Mr. Jenkins' arthritis, about the cook who slept in his car, about the regular customer who came every morning because he didn't want to drink coffee alone since his wife died. Ethan listened. And with every word, memories he'd buried clawed their way back. He remembered his father losing his job when Ethan was 12. Remembered the silence at dinner. The shame. The way one decision made in a glass office had wrecked a family that never mattered to anyone important. He'd promised himself he'd never be powerless again. Somewhere along the way, he'd confused power with indifference. I didn't come here for a lecture, he said quietly, more to himself than her. I know, Lily said. I just couldn't stay quiet. He studied her. No ambition in her eyes. No expectation of reward. Just a quiet exhaustion and something like hope. That small, stubborn hope people carry even when experience tells them not to. Ethan folded the contract and slid it into his briefcase. Bring me a refill, he said. When she returned, he was staring out the window, lost in thought. Why did this job? He asked suddenly. You're smart. You notice details. Lily smiled faintly. Smart doesn't pay bills. Loving people does. This place lets me do that. He nodded slowly. After he left, Lily assumed nothing would change. Powerful men didn't change because of conversations. They changed markets, not minds. But 2 days later, Mr. Jenkins received a call. The acquisition was paused. A week later, Ethan returned, no papers this time. He sat at the counter. Lily served him silently, unsure. I fired my legal team, he said. She almost dropped the mug. Excuse me. I rehired them, he clarified. With new instructions. He slid a new document toward her. Read this outcome. She skimmed it, breath-catching. The clause was gone. Not only that, the contract guaranteed job protection, community profit sharing, and a fund for employee emergencies. Why? She whispered. Ethan swallowed. Because I built my success by surviving traps. And somewhere along the way, I started setting them. The deal went through, on new terms. The cafe stayed open, so did the others. Ethan didn't become a saint overnight. Billionaires rarely do. But he started showing up. Listening. Asking questions he'd never asked before. Lily kept waiting tables. But now, when she looked at contracts, or people, she knew one voice could matter. And Ethan learned something no balance sheet could teach. That the strongest clause in any deal is humanity. And sometimes, the bravest thing a person can do, is speak up from a place no one expects. Because the day a billionaire lost his smile, he finally found his conscience.